This is a map of an area view of Manhattan. Um, there's the entire scene is actually very gray, and you can see that there's absolutely no color in this map. The only thing you can see clearly are the very tall buildings that seem to stretch across the island.
Yeah, so I think this idea of like how there's no color in in this depiction shows that there's a very raw element towards the painting. I mean, towards the drawing. The the drawing shows that the city is under construction. It reflects on how there is this idea of development in the city. So we can tell that it's under construction because the roads are still established. And I like that it's an aerial view of Manhattan because you finally get an idea of how small the city is, even though it seems never ending when we're actually physically there.
Some themes that I personally picked up on the map was the fact that we kind of forget that once we're on the island, we feel that we're in our own little world. We don't think that there's some place outside of New York City. We get so absorbed in the city with all the materialness and the secularity. It's kind of ironic that this painting is also painted in black and white, so probably suggesting that there's a lack of anything of any value in the city. It's kind of more or less an area where tourists and commuters can come to shop or to get other business done.
Yeah, I agree with that. We often forget that New York State is like an amalgamation of the countryside, and that's blended in with this more urban aspect. And I think it also shows this very raw element to the picture. We see like the origins of the city, and we often forget the large graded investment of time, money, and effort that it took in order to develop the city. And then it really makes me think about how New York City started off as something very simple and grew in complexity. Okay, this is a painting, or I mean a picture of an art vendor. So looking at the painting, we see that I can tell that the art vendor is very, very talented. He focuses on various different themes throughout his paintings. So two of the paintings focus on various landscapes. For example, one of them shows white houses overlooking a blue ocean, which reminds me of an island in Greece. And there's a completely different piece depicting the Manhattan skyline with a bit of the George Washington Bridge, and it looks very, very dark.
In this picture, I kind of see a sort of idealization of how this painter, he or she, idealizes the city. I can see the first thing I see is of a bridge and of the Manhattan skyline. I think sometimes we idealize the city as a sort of place of futuristic expectations, and how we only see like one side of the city that's more glamorous and pretty, whereas
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There are neighborhoods, and this just shows the Manhattan skyline, and going back to this idea of like the concrete jungle and this corporate center. But there's a much more personal aspect to the city that is not conveyed through this. However, the picture does. I like this picture because it does reflect many of the common things we associate with the city. For example, we see the yellow taxi, and I think the taxi perfectly is commonly associated with the hustle and bustle of the city and how people are always trying to get to places as soon as possible. And then also behind the taxi, we see this large red tour bus, which we also think is very New Yorker in theme, because it attracts people from all corners of the world, and we know that.
Commenting on the tourists, I I'm gonna make a postulation here that these people, it may actually be their first time visiting the city, but sometimes they may. I feel like they may only be seeing the sides of the city that New York is known for. Whereas I think if they're given a more well-rounded view of the city, I think they should also see how New York City is not just about the business and commercial activity, but there's also smaller, aspects inside the city